This is the Commonwealth, where we interview the unique people blazing their own trail. For today's interview, our social media manager, Ashley Hansen, sat in on the interview. What's up, Ashley?
Hey, what's up?
Yes, yeah. Our guest today is Wyn Wiley.
Wyn Wiley is a local Lincoln native, photographer turned social media sensation with their drag persona, Pattie Gonia. They are a nature-based drag queen, and we are super excited to interview them today.
Enjoy the conversation. Are you a fan of Runza?
Am I?
Yes.
I mean, like, their ranch dressing is through my veins every day.
All right, amazing. So that segues into today's sponsor, which is Runza. We cannot support the show without Runza. I'm also a fan of the ranch dressing.
Yeah, it's so good. It's
Yes.
so good.
Yeah, I would bathe in it if I could.
Right. Yeah,
Yes.
they gifted me with a gallon of their ranch once upon a time.
A gallon?
Yeah.
That's enough to like reinvent the secret formula behind the Runza.
Right, yeah.
Or, yeah, behind the Runza ranch.
Wait for it to separate in the fridge and then like find out what the secret ingredient is.
Exactly. What did you do with a gallon of Runza when they?
Well, I like to redistribute it to my friends. This is pre-COVID.
Okay.
So it was like COVID safe. But yeah, I would like literally like siphon it off. I was like, when people come over, I'd be like, hey, do you want drugs? And they're like, what? And I was like, drugs, and like open the fridge and showed them the gallon. So it was good.
What else is Runza Ranch good for? Like, what did you use it with? Just everything?
Okay, well, unpopular opinion, I really think that like in Lincoln, I mean, let's be real, we have Battle of the Ranches. You have Valentino's Ranch, you have Amigo's Ranch, you have Runza Ranch. And like each ranch is perfect for the food, and I tried to use Runza Ranch on Valentino's pizza, and it like didn't work. Like, they're like Valentino's Ranch is like, you have to have it.
For
Yeah.
the pizza.
It's the right consistency, the right level of salt. I'm an idiot, but this is my life. So yeah. But I mean, it's good on like a lot of things. So it was good though. I think it's just best on Runza food. It's best on Runza onion rings. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So thanks again to Runza for supporting the Commonwealth.
This is the longest ad in the beginning of a podcast ever.
Exactly. Yes.
Honestly, for the people, they need to know.
Okay, so when you are one of the few people I've interviewed where you have done so much that I'm gonna have to leave things out of the interview because we could talk for 3 hours. But to start with, you are a wonderful photographer, and the photography work has sprouted all the different like crazy career opportunities that you've had. What drew you to photography?
So I told myself before I would go on this podcast that I'd just try to be as like honest and straightforward with you as possible.
I love it.
I think that a lot of these answers might surprise people if I'm being really honest with myself. I mean, I grew up, I went to Southwest High School here in Lincoln, and I was really like, and I was in the closet, and I was really, thankful to go to Southwest, but I think at the time, there was still so much covert homophobia going on everywhere, including like internalized in myself. And I think that like photography was a way for me to rewrite my story as not the queer kid or the faggot, but the photographer, and was able to like give myself like value, or that I could be able to like do something that wouldn't just be known for like my sexuality or me being in the closet. I wanted to like divert that energy. So I mean, I started photography when I was in high school, like age 16, 17, 18, and got into it just because it was a really fun creative escape. It was such a cool way to get to know people, and I think it really helped myself because like I don't think I was the nicest kid before I had a camera in my hand. I think that like I internalized a lot of the hate that people spewed my way and like fed it out, and it was like this vicious cycle. And I think photography was a thing that like led me to connect to people and led me to realize that like there was potential there with human connection in my life when I really didn't have that before. So yeah, that's like the behind the scenes story of photography. But ever since I've tried to reroute the fuck you fuel that's fueled photography and kind of my creative career into like doing it for the love of it, which is what I think is a really important thing. But I think that like for the longest time too, like a big reason of my why or my motivation was to just prove people wrong, was to prove that I could have value. I think that's what a lot of queer people go through, and why queer people are at the top of the ranks of creativity often is because we seek something to give value to people and to community. So
yes.
Yeah.
So when did you first think you were adding value as a photographer?
I mean, a moment I'll always remember is like I like shot the cover of our yearbook my senior year, and it was like this this moment at this like rivalry football game between like Southeast and Southwest, where like all the fans in the Southwest student section like threw up this like flower into the air, and like it was this really cool moment. And this was like before Instagram, like before like even like Facebook was popping off. So this was like you still like went to the yearbook to see photos of your friends, and it was just like a really cool accomplishment, I guess, in a way. And I had people come up to me, classmates come up to me and be like, hey, I really love this photo, or this was like such a important, cool moment for our school, or teachers would too. So that was cool. But I also like photographed all of our like plays and show choir performances, and would get other people like photos of that too, and they love that. So yeah, that was kind of like the first time I think I really like added value through my artwork.
Yes, yeah. And then, so when you left high school, did you go straight into starting the photography business?
Yeah, I think it kind of just like naturally spiraled. I mean, I think that's what like so many people that are interested in creativity are finding, is it's kind of just like happens, and you don't really like know a start date to it, you know? Like there wasn't necessarily like, I am founding Wyn Wiley Photography. It was just kind of like, it always kind of was underneath and kind of just like exploded when I got to college. I think that UNL is a really great place to, if you're passionate about something, to make it happen, because also like me spitting it real, like UNL provides a really great basis for you to learn like baseline skills. But if you want to like fuck shit up in this world, it all has to be self-started. And I think that like UNL and Nebraska in general provides you with really fertile soil to fuck shit up with, but you have to do it yourself. You know, you have to want that. So I think for me, I just like chased that. It was my thing I did all the time. I was editing photos in class. Like I don't know. I'm really thankful to have gone to UNL. I think the ad PR program at UNL and the journalism school is fucking amazing, but I think that like you have to put it into practice, and I think that like Nebraska really waits for you to kind of like chop your teeth, or whatever the phrase is, and show what you're made of. So yeah.
So you majored in advertising and PR. Yeah. So how did that translate with your photography? Why didn't you pursue photography specifically? I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think at the core of it, I've always been I think more of a strategist, and more of like an advertiser in a way, more than a fine art photographer, if that makes sense. So the photography program at UNL is great, but to be honest, what I encountered when I attempted to sign up for some classes through the art school was a shit ton of ego from a lot of professors who thought they were the shit. And again, this is just my like uncensored opinions, but like that was my human experience. Was I went in and I was like, hey, I would love to take some art classes, and I showed them my portfolio, and they were like, well, you just shoot seniors or weddings, or you just do this or that, and they were like, show us your fine artwork. And I was like, I'm over here making like a lot of money every year, enough to put me through school, and like that's my focus right now. And also like I'm building with the sand that's around me. Like I'm building the best sandcastle I can, and that's like what people want to hire me for, and that's what I love doing. And this serves a really practical purpose, but I think they always look down on it. I think that's changed over the past little bit, but yeah, they were like this professor, like when I went into office to like basically apply to the photo school too, she was like, you don't have any fine artwork. Look at this fine artwork of mine, and like showed me her like photos, and I was like, all right, well, I'm a peace out. And then I went to the journalism college, and I found people that were like excited to meet me where I was at and help me succeed, and really allow my ad PR degree to be kind of really directly purposed into a photo focused major. I think that like for everyone who wants to be like an art director, or or like a project manager, or just even a photographer, I would suggest the journalism college over the art school path. But that's my path.
I personally love the journalism school. I mean, that's what I graduated with, and like the professors there are absolutely amazing. Like
they give it in.
They'll meet you halfway, and you really don't see that in a lot of colleges.
It's also frustrating to see creatives put other creatives down of like, oh, this isn't art, you're just shooting.
I hate that shit. And like there's enough toxicity out there, like why are we doing that? So it wasn't the place for me, but I think that's a really important lesson to learn too. Like I think there are a lot of people out there who would rather stand on the sidelines and like judge people rather than like hopping into the arena themselves. And so I mean, like look across the way, like Memorial Stadium. We watch 100 college kids like try their best every damn day, but inadvertently just like critique their asses all the time and like try to tear them down. When I'm like, I don't see you, fucking 45-year-old dude, like doing anything to add value to the state, yet you're here like judging people on the sidelines for like trying to do their best, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of like a little bit of Nebraska ethos too. I'm like trying to pick apart. I'm like, we would rather judge people and like throw hate rather than just like get off our asses and do anything ourselves, you know?
Yes.
So Nebraska.
So,
yeah.
Like that really, like that statement, I think really shows, especially with how Lincoln was handling a lot of the social dilemma that was going on this summer. It's like, we don't want to talk about it. We don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, like, I am so grateful to be from Nebraska, and there is no place like it. And I really love it here. And there are incredible people here. But the more I spend time out of Nebraska, I really just start to look at things differently, or start to really realize like how much, just the interesting like dissonance that exists throughout a lot of Nebraska between its kind of like liberalness and conservativeness, and also just kind of like just so many conflicting energies, and I love Nebraska for that. I'm like so fascinated with Nebraska for that, but it's permanently like lays in my mind as like a giant like question mark of like, what an interesting place to be from, you know? So
People wouldn't expect that here.
Yeah,
honestly.
they wouldn't.
Yeah. You mentioned growing up as a queer kid and the challenges that comes with that. How did Nebraska affect that, being a conservative state or a rural state? What about that? What about that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I feel like, I mean, the first thing I want to do is to like acknowledge that like I am a straight passing white person who's also queer. So I am like a marginalized person, but I'm also hold so much privilege. And so like, honestly, what my queer experience like makes me think about is just like how fucking weird this place would be if I was a person of color and queer, or if I was a marginalized person in many other ways. And I think that like my experience as a queer person in Nebraska has often been like a bridge between multiple worlds, a bridge between like being able to be, how do I put this? Like vanilla enough for some people, but yet like rainbow enough for others. Does that make sense? And oftentimes like one of the only like queer people that a lot of straight people could go to ask questions and kind of be a resource. But I'm really realizing like, I don't know. I mean, y'all, to be like really honest with you, it's just been a really surreal experience to like, to be queer and from the Midwest, because it comes with so many things like, and I feel like the main thing that comes up for me when you ask that question is just conditionality. Like, it's like, I love you, but it's like, well, we accept you, but don't ever paint your fingernails. Don't ever do drag. Don't ever like challenge anything, but like, don't ever like judge us for not voting for your equal rights in a voting booth. But I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, why does that exist? Like, and am I down to tolerate that anymore? I don't know. I think it's been a really challenging point of my friendships with a lot of people from Nebraska, because the almost more overtly queer I am, I think the more that they just don't understand it. And also the more that I just don't accept the like conditionality of like love with tons of exceptions. I'm like, no, love because love. But like, am I up for that challenge of practicing what I preach in my own life? That's what I'm trying to focus on, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, lots of layers. But yeah, I think it's just like, it's interesting. I mean, like, yeah, I grew up in like suburbia Lincoln. Like, I don't know what it's even like to grow up in like a small town of 300 and to be queer from Nebraska. I think I would have a completely different experience. Like, I had a drama program. I had at least some queer allies. I had some people that for sure knew that I was queer before I came out of the closet, who for sure like helped kind of like push things out of my way so that I could have a little bit more of like a safe experience. And I'm so grateful for that. But it's also like, I want more from Nebraska. I want more from people as allies here, because like, I don't think we can just be like satisfied with like making ourselves palatable to be like accepted as like these amazing like tokens of difference in community. Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah.
You mentioned performing drag. And about 18 months ago, you launched the persona. Is that the of Patagonia? So Patagonia's first Instagram post had 200,000 views on Instagram, and you had an Instagram presence before then as Wyn Wiley, and that fueled the views and traction for Patagonia. But why do you think Patagonia resonated with people?
I think that queer people have always been in the outdoors. We just don't really notice them or see them, or just haven't really before. I'm not saying that started with me, but I'm saying that it kind of hit at like a precipice time where diversity was really starting to be celebrated in the outdoors and encouraged more and supported more. I also just think there are like a lot of queer people out there in like really untraditional, like rural environments. I think the traditional narrative is if you're queer to run to a city for acceptance. And I think there's a lot of people that run to the woods, you know? So I think that like nature is queer as hell. Like it really is. Like nature is so weird, so queer. And I think can be a really beautiful place for people to find themselves no matter who they are. I think that a lot of people in my life, no matter if they're queer or ally or a person of color or an ally, like can find a sense of peace in the outdoors, but also a sense of just like who the fuck they are by spending more time disconnected from like the pressures that be in society that be. So, yeah.
Was that your first time performing drag?
Yeah. I mean, listen, my experience with drag has been very non-traditional. Like, I think of drag as anything from like me just wearing only heels to being in full drag. And I definitely exist outside of this like traditional drag system of like, I don't perform drag in clubs. I'm not a member of a drag family. I am like this weird woods fairy thing. But it's like a really, really special and important thing to me. I mean, it has this very outward visual presence online. But it's also like an incredibly personal journey to me, of like, if I'm honest with myself, like a lot of like healing. I think that like when I came out of the closet, because I was so conditionally accepted, I changed everything that I was so that I could continue to be accepted. So I lowered my voice. I never did wear any bright colored clothing. I never did wear like tight jeans. And I know these things are like ridiculous, right? Because like wear whatever the fuck you want. But like for a queer kid who's just trying to like fit in and like be a part of something, like there were so many changes that I made to like fit the society. I mean, like in so many like overcompensatingly like masculine things I did too. I think that some of the most toxic masculinity can be found inside the queer community because we are like seeking to become the thing to heal our wounds and are being like led by a leash we can't see, you know? So I don't know. It's like, so like I found myself in like the UNL Rex gym and like for the first time in my life, I had like a 6-pack and like I did all these things and it was all like overcompensating. And I think that now I'm trying to like release the feminine and be like, yeah, this is me, you know? So.
Yes. Yeah. At the start you mentioned using photography as a tool to learn more about yourself. How has Pattie taught you more about Wyn Wiley?
Yeah. I think that like there's a drag queen inside of everybody. I think that like drag is like a really important, drag is my playground. Drag is my place to explore and to ask what if and to get political and to stand up for what I believe in and throw it in people's faces. Like drag is very like, overt to every drag queen because obviously you're like taking the stage no matter what way you do it. But it's also, this like hidden like journey of like self-acceptance. I don't know if like my like body totally matches with like what my core soul feels, you know? I'm not saying I'm trans. I'm not saying that I'm non-binary, but I definitely do not feel always as like masculine as my body presents. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think it's just important to like leave behind everything you knew and to like ask yourself, what if?
Do you have any interest in performing live or on a stage, or will it always be the Instagram and online presence?
I've performed live with Pattie. It's again been in very non-traditional ways. It's been like in the outdoors for Mother Nature or for the friends I feel safe with out there, or it's been at different outdoor events and things like that. So it's my goal and it's my hope to, I don't know, not every drag queen, it's such a privilege to have like a platform and to have like I hate the word following, to have a community. And I want to like create more of a space for like more non-traditional, like weird ass drag queens to like be. So my goal would be, I mean, obviously Corona has thrown things off, but like to someday soon create a drag show that is like performed in outdoor amphitheaters like across the US, and kind of like take a group of 6-8 drag queens like around that are more outdoor based drag queens or environmental based drag queens, which there are like way more than you'd think. To like almost do a hybrid, like it's not necessarily like we're performing to songs, but it's like you're going to get like Bill Nye the Science Guy mixed with drag, and then you're going to get like a performance, or you're going to get this like other queer variety show, or like this drag queen that's a magician and also loves houseplants. So that would be my goal, is to create like space for that to happen. So stay tuned.
And I would guess Bill Nye may bite on that idea. Like that,
who knows? Who knows? So,
I'm waiting for the Bill Nye collab.
Me too. I met him once at a distance during the solar eclipse. He was here in Nebraska. And I was like, I love you. And he was like, cool. I was like, great.
What is the learning curve when you start performing drag? Like, is there one to do all the, and you, your posts in particular, like Patagonia, there is an artistic, like the around the election you posted the Statue of Liberty that Pattie dressed like the Statue of Liberty, and it was breathtakingly beautiful.
Thank you.
And like, for example, like if I were to do that for I could not even begin to do all the makeup and hair and design and fashion. What was the learning curve like on that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm definitely figuring out drag at like 1,000,000 miles an hour. Like I think I've done what, not like what most drag queens have done in 10 years in like a year, but kind of like, I think that like there's just been no time to wait when it comes to like learning how to paint your face and like learning what your style is, but also like giving myself enough freedom to be like, I'm putting myself out there, but this is not like necessarily what Pattie's going to be for forever, you know? But it's also been like a really unique learning curve too, because I feel like as much as I've tried to figure out like drag in Pattie's life, I've tried to figure out like sustainability and environmentally friendly practices in my life as Wyn, and kind of like married the two. So it's been like a really like interesting experience to like practice what I preach out of drag in drag. Like, don't have more makeup than I need. Like, ask myself, like, do I really need that new thing? Can we upcycle something here? Can we recreate something there? So we just released a look that was a dress made of, like, I was basically just really pissed off at like how much trash I was using in quarantine and single-use items. So we made a dress out of it. And like, I was like, hell yeah, like, this feels good, you know? Like, I am getting to like, practice sustainability in drag as well, but it's been like almost like a double learning curve in a way, but I'm down for it. I mean, like it's exciting to me. It's really fun to me. But I think the learning curve is like really big when it comes to drag too, for a lot of people, because like they're not living in New York City where they can like learn from 10 different drag queens. You know, they're oftentimes like learning via the internet or learning through just experimenting. So I really like welcome that and like want to root that on. I think it's really cool. Yeah, like I had no one to teach me drag. I've just been like, well, here goes nothing. I'm gonna paint my face, see if it fucking works. So,
So you mentioned at the start, as a kid, not having the queer role model to look up to, and in a lot of ways, both you and Patagonia, like that is the role model for a bunch of people, even across America. What's your perspective on that? And do you like fully appreciate that, or is that just something like you're doing this and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't necessarily. And like, this is not to be like humble, but like, I don't think of myself as a role model. I think of myself as like, I really try to give a damn about the shit I give a damn about. And like, if I'm being honest, like, I think that like anyone can be like a role model for people. And like, oftentimes we like are and don't even know it in ways we don't even know. Like, I think that like, always like my biggest impact will never be having like an Instagram following of like multiple 100,000 people, but like my impact will be like, who are the daily people in my life that like I'm impacting, you know? So like, I mean, yeah, I think that like we oftentimes can think that like wideness is the answer when really it's about like deepness and depth with people and relationships. So yeah, I don't know. I don't chalk myself up to be like a role model, but I think that like I'm trying to, I guess, be a person that would be encouraging of like 14, 15-year-old closeted me to chase what they want to do in this world. So maybe I am. I don't know. Interesting thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I just got the chills by you talking about that. So
thanks.
Very, very cool. So Pattie has also made a splash in the outdoor community and camping community. And that community I would think of, and I think a lot of people think of as liberal in the traditional sense, like the earthy, crunchy. What's been the reception to a drag queen coming in and making a splash?
Yeah. Will always be fascinated with like the dichotomy that is that like nature just loves you as you are, but like humans fuck it up, you know? Like, yeah, I used to believe that like the outdoors were like this liberal crowd, but I mean, I faced more homophobia there than even in home state of Nebraska, but everyone loves to point the finger, right? Like, so yeah, it's been really interesting. I mean, I think that like it's definitely been met with a lot of love and a lot of reception, but also, yeah, again, it just makes me think about like, I think the behind the scenes that most people wouldn't know about Pattie is that like I've made a lot of like real life connections with queer people in the outdoors that again have not had the reception that I've had. I mean, my trans climber friend Nikki Smith, when she goes into a bathroom in like rural Wyoming and gets told to like get the fuck out of there, that's not her bathroom, like she doesn't feel safe, but she's just on her way to climb. And like I can wipe off my makeup at the end of the day on trail. And is it vulnerable for me to be out there doing drag? For sure. It's not the safest, but like I really worry and wonder about like my trans friends, my like BIPOC queer friends. Yeah, it just makes me like rethink a lot. Like if I face what I face, like what do they face, you know? So yeah, I think the outdoor community has a long way to go, and so does the outdoor industry. And I think we're truly seeing like the tides turn, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to be there. And I'm excited to be there. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity, but like, I mean, I'm going to spit it real. Like, people are homophobic everywhere, including liberals. Like, are you fucking kidding? Like, are you kidding? Yeah, liberals are not the answer. No one is, but yeah, that's how I feel.
Yes, yeah. So I'm currently, I guess, obsessed, it might be the word to use, about the negative effects of social media. And
love it. Let's fucking go in.
Yeah.
Let's go in.
And it comes from a personal lens that I'm on social media all the time for my job, and I work in social media, but there are some huge negative effects that we're either just starting to talk about or we're not at all. And Pattie Gonia had a post about cancel culture being like the internet's guillotine. And I've used that. I saw that a few months ago whenever she posted it, and I have used that in a bunch of different contexts because I think it describes it well.
Yeah.
So how would you describe cancel culture? And I know you have a unique perspective and a unique experience with it.
Yeah.
But what's your, to start with, how do you define cancel culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, cancel culture it's hard to describe because it's changing every day. You know, it's this very like ominous and weird thing. Yeah, I mean, I would describe it just like you said, of like being like a social media guillotine. But I think I'm most interested on how like cancel culture is used to like laterally oppress within marginalized communities. Let me explain. Like, I don't have a problem with cancel culture, and I'm never gonna police how, like, for me to tell like how other people to be. I just know what I'm never gonna do. And what I see time and time again is that like it's like the gays trademark going after like the Asians trademark, or like the Asians being like Black Lives Matter people, you want our like co-liberation, but yet like you won't stand for our own co-liberation. Like, where were you when there was so much like racism against Asian people like 4 months ago when like coronavirus happened, you know? So like I see like cancel culture and like critique happen within marginalized communities to like laterally affect each other. And like that is the definition of oppression, and like using the same tools that are used to oppress us outside of our marginalized communities within our marginalized communities, which I think is just like so fucked, you know? So yeah, but I think that like for like the average person, it's just like, I mean, there's such a routine and process to cancel culture. It's like one person or a group of people cancel another, and then everyone wants to know like the real tea and what happened. So then people try to get their information from like third party sources who like don't have all the facts, and then like some truth comes to light in one like aspect, but then like if everyone else who's like in association with the canceller doesn't also come out and like cancel the canceller, well then they're part of the problem too, and they get canceled. It's like mob mentality.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to diffuse it is like restorative justice, and is like to point positive. And that doesn't mean like everything's okay, sunshine and rainbows, but it means like accountability with people you have real life relationships with. It means like not ostracizing people from communities, but like restorative justice to like integrate them again. I mean, like every marginalized person wants to be like get everyone out of like prison, and we hate the criminal justice system, but yet we're putting like people in like mental prisons with like cancel culture. Does that make sense? Like we're just being like, off with you, off with your head, goodbye. And I don't think that's the answer. So again, I am a white privileged person who is sharing my optics as also a marginalized person. People are more than welcome to do whatever they'd like. And I think my experiences have definitely like had an effect on like my opinion, of course, as any human.
Yeah.
But
what are some of those experiences?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, you want to really get into it? Because we can really get into it.
Yes.
I mean, like, listen, it's like, if this isn't the epitome of just like LO fucking L, I don't know what is. But like, when Nebraska flooded, I like tried to do whatever I could, which like I had one of the largest social media followings of like a person in the town of Lincoln. So I was like, okay, well,
probably
like,
all of Nebraska.
Well, I was like, okay, what can I do? Like, what is the work that's available to me and only to me in this situation? Like, cause I'm not home right now. I'm like living outside of the state. Like, but what can I do from afar? And I thought, well, what I can do is I can really provide an amazing way for people to like donate, because so much of the time I think that like what happens is everyone's just like, oh, well, we want to donate, but we don't know where and how. And like, to be really honest with you, every nonprofit's website that makes you fill out 20 steps to donate $5, people aren't going to do it. So I was like, hey, Venmo me, and I will consolidate this and I will donate it to different nonprofits. What started out as like trying to raise like $500 raised like $87,000. Like I could not expect that or see that coming, but it happened. But then the cancelers came and they were like, Wyn is like stealing this money. And I'm like, bitch, I'm not stealing this money. I don't need this fucking money. I don't need this money. Or they were like, Wyn's not going to donate this to like the right organizations. And I'm like, I'm thinking about intersectionality in every way. I like donated it to like a Native American reservation, a farmers coalition, like one of the communities, it's like a trailer park community that got like most heavily hit, that's like Latinx, and like was thinking about all the things. But then like when I donated it to all those orgs, people were like, how fucking dare you support farmers? They get plenty of subsidies. Or like, how dare you donate to the Indians? Like, and I'm like, are you kidding? Like, yeah. So it's so interesting. Again, the football theory of like stand on the sidelines and judge rather than like do anything about it. And like, I'm always going to be the person that's going to step into the arena, and I will get critiqued until the end of my life that I have like centered myself, or that like I have come in and tried to be this hero. But like, I'm just trying to do what's available to me and only to me, which is different than the average person. I don't even say average person is different than someone else, you know? So I think that like, it's so interesting to me how like the loudest voices that critique what I do or that like try to cancel me literally do nothing themselves. They just sit there and they want to complain on their phones. But to each their own. They can go do that. I'm going to do me.
All right, so reaction to the negative reaction.
I mean, I think my reaction, of course, was like, what the fuck? Like, why? What? Like, I was just very confused. And then, you know, people were like pointing out loopholes like, oh, well, you can only take $3,000 out of your Venmo account like every single like week, so it's going to take you weeks to donate this. And I was like, they're going to need assistance for like the next year. It's fine. Also, like, I didn't know this, y'all didn't know this.
Yeah,
it's really interesting too how like a month after, like that dude who threw up the sign for beer money at a baseball game and raised like $1 million, like same thing happened to him. Like, you know, like it's just like we want it. Like it is our natural human instinct, I think, to like see people like be torn to the ground, but then when they're on the ground, like kick the shit out of them because like that's what happened. It wasn't necessarily even people critiquing whatever. They were like people waiting on the sidelines being like, finally, like Wyn is down, like let's kick him. And I'm like, okay, like I don't know. I'm like, that just shows your true colors more than mine.
I think another thing of social media is the chasing the following that a bunch of people, especially younger kids, think as soon as I get 400,000 followers on Instagram, I'm going to be set. As someone with 400,000 followers split between two accounts, what do you say to that thought process?
That's bullshit. Yeah, I think like it is hilarious. I think how our brains kind of compute like numbers with numbers. Like having a lot of followers does not mean you have a job that pays any amount of good. Like having a certain number of followers also doesn't mean you have like anything real in your real life, you know? So yeah, I mean, I feel really grateful that like I have a really, really deep and beautiful connections with people in my real life, and I have that. But also like the and is that like that also causes me a lot of stress and anxiety. I think it does for anyone. I mean, we're not built as human beings to be receiving that much feedback from that many people, even if it is constructive feedback. I also don't think we are like made as human beings to like be in community with like multiple hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, a weird visual is like my online presence is 4 sizes of Memorial Stadium, which that's really weird. And of course it's like, yeah, well, like that's bullshit too, because only like 25% of your audience like sees your shit. Okay, cool. Still, that's one football stadium full of people. Like, how am I ever supposed to like serve or care for that many people in my life? Like I can't, you know. I can hopefully inspire them, but I think that's like the most I can do. So I'm constantly trying to think about ways to like get online community in real life. Like a lot of Pattie's online presence is built on like funneling people to like group hikes in person or fully scholarshiped and actually paid for opportunities to be a queer person going on a first time backpacking trip, things like that. So I am really wanting to try to like pursue those routes rather than just like my post and follow for lols. I don't know. That doesn't feel good to me.
Yes.
But I do like fucking love like popping off on like line, like that feels so fun to share with people, you know, especially if I can't perform for people in real life, like I perform on people's phones. Like it's fun, you know? So it's all the feels.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier that you decided to go and study advertising and PR because you felt more of a strategist inside than a photographer. So how do you have a strategy with all this? Is there like, you know, a driven purpose behind it, or is it more just like a self-expression that you are bringing out to the world?
Yeah, there's totally a strategy. It's like make shit gay again, you know, like for real. I think that one of like the biggest ways that like we can form representation right now as queer people is like via the internet, because again, we can't, like, we didn't have Pride this year in real life, so that feels fun and beautiful to me. And also I love like meeting people where they're at too. In the case of like youth, like so many youth are on their phones all the time, and I really love to encourage them to, one, put down their phone and get outside, but two, like if via the internet I can show and tell that like get outside and get connected to the internet, or create, because like unless you feel connected to things, you're never going to fight for it, you know, like unless we get people outdoors, they're never going to know how worth it is to help save this planet. Until we get people to like get out and create, they'll never realize that they like can probably provide a lot more value on their own, or by like focusing on their own business rather than like trying to like worship at the feet of white men in power to get jobs at corporations that will suck your soul. But again, that's my personal opinion.
So Pattie is featured in a movie I saw that's about to come out. It's airing at film festivals like this month or soon, right?
Yeah. We actually made that film last year and it released last year, but like the way that films like film festivals work is like it cycles through for the next year. So
Okay.
yeah, so we released it last year. It was with REI. Got to work with an incredible film team at Wonder Camp, and it was so cool. It was like totally mind blowing. We got to tell the story of the plastics crisis in Hawaii and therefore like worldwide, but to use Hawaii as a case study of just how plastics pollution like affects the oceans, and got to meet with like badass female identifying and like queer scientists in the film that are doing incredible research on like intestinal tracts of different animals in the ocean and pulling out like literal straws and pieces of plastic from tortoises' guts, from sharks' guts, from fishes' guts. Fucking mind-blowing. Analysis is on like microplastics on a beach. Like every single beach in the world is polluted with microplastics. You just don't realize it because plastics will like degrade enough in the oceans to then be smaller than pieces of sands on beaches. So on the whole entire north shore of Hawaii, which is like the windward side, it acts like a comb. Like all of the ocean plastics are pushed up on the shores, and like if you wonder why the sand is so like different colors, it's because it's all plastic. So it was mind-blowing. And then I got to like make a dress out of like plastic nets we found, and like make another dress out of like plastic bags from like landlocked America, and like got to make a whole entire like queer as fuck art film. It was a dream.
Do you have anything in particular that you want to accomplish either as Wyn or as Pattie?
That's
like,
a good question.
Like making a movie seems like a big accomplishment.
Yeah. No, that's a good question. I think at the end of the day, I just want to like make good shit and make people's day, and hopefully like advocate for shit I care about and know what I believe in. I think like, yeah, I have no idea how I got so lucky that like Pattie came into my life. I think it was like the cosmic gay lesbian Mother Nature universe that was like, and this will happen in your life. But I'm really thankful for just the chance to get to like hopefully like affect people in a positive way, in this planet in a positive way. And if I'm doing that, I'm happy. So yeah, I think it will look like a film sometimes, and it will look like volunteering with a middle school science classroom another time, and it will look like I don't know, realizing that I need to love myself more other days too. So yes. I think it'll be all that.
Yeah. Throughout the last half hour, you've touched on basically everything that is unique to Wyn Wiley and Pattie Gonia, but you also hit on some challenges that you faced along the way. When you were facing those challenges, was there ever a piece of advice someone gave you, or inspiration somewhere that made you continue to forge that unique path?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all funnels, right? So like I am nothing but like this vessel for like every creative that I have like looked up to before. And I think so many of those creatives are from Nebraska. They're not necessarily queer icons or like celebrities, but they're just like people that do shit, have such good work ethic, and are just like trying to like be a good person. And like, you know, like at the end of the day, it's like just that. I mean, so I feel like that's what's kept me going, is just knowing that like, honestly, as an Enneagram 3, which is like an achiever, like I can always create my way out of like a shitty mental state, because I just love to create. It's like it's the thing I do to like escape my brain and to just make shit happen in my life. But yeah, I think that like nature also just reminds me that like everything is changing all the time, and like I have to change and adapt too. Like we are constantly going through metamorphosis. So like Pattie is just the current metamorphosis, and I think there'll be many more in my life. And I think that a lot of times like creatives get stuck. I got stuck for so long thinking that like a camera in my hand was the only thing I could like do, or like that it was like glued to my hand. And I think that like what I like wish I would have told myself then is that like you can swap out this tool anytime you want, and that it's like you, not this thing, you know? Does that make sense? So yeah, I think that like if oftentimes, yeah, it's switching out the tool. I think also if I'm being like no bullshit with you, it's like I think for the longest time, I planted myself in fucking toxic soil, like for real. And I'm not saying like Nebraska is toxic soil and now I'm like living in this beautiful soil. I'm saying like that might have been like with a really shitty like friendship that was actually really toxic, or that might have been like a group of people that I thought were like really filling my cup and like making life happen, and like did nothing but like rob everything from me, like energy wise. So I think that like it's all about too, like knowing that like oftentimes if you aren't growing, if you feel stuck as a creative, if you don't know where to turn, oftentimes it's not necessarily you, it's just like the environment you're in, you know, like change that environment, you know, and just don't get so down on yourself, because it's oftentimes not you. It's like you're planted in dog shit, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. You know what I'm saying, though?
Yes.
Like, I'm just like, I think we can just get so down on ourselves as creatives of like, I don't know what to do, and like, whatever. Like, change your scenery.
You're not a tree. You can pick up and leave.
Yeah, for fucking real. Yeah. And, yeah, I think there's a lot of people that just try to like tell you you're a weed in life and not a beautiful wildflower. And like, what is a weed? Who fucking defines a weed? Maybe I am a weed, you know? Like, I don't know. Nature metaphors. Here we are.
Well,
people are going to listen to this and be like, what the hell did I just listen to?
Well, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
From the very first time I started podcasting, I wanted to interview you.
Thanks.
So thank you for responding to my Instagram direct message and taking the time to meet with us today.
Of course. Thanks for interviewing me, both of you. I really appreciate it. This has been like a really honest conversation. Thanks for giving me the space to chat a little bit.
Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah.
You're an amazing person, truly.
Oh God, I am not. I'm just a weird one. But you know what? Like,
Hey,
I think
we
we need
need
more
that.
weird ones out there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So here we are. Thank you. Seriously, so much.
Thank you. That is it for today's conversation. Shout out again to Runza for sponsoring today's episode. Ashley, what is your favorite menu item from Runza?
I mean, you can't go wrong with their chicken fingers, fries, and cider ranch. I mean, honestly, that's the best combo.
That is easily the best go-to at Runza. So shout out Runza. We could not put on the Commonwealth without them. It was also good to hear that Wyn was a big Runza fan as well. If you enjoyed the conversation, please hit the subscribe button and tell your friends and family about the show. We release episodes every Monday, so stay tuned for next week.